What's up, guys? Music fan here. Continuing my Metallica discography review with a album review for Metallica's third studio album, Master of Puppets, released in 1985. Also, coincidentally, unfortunately, the last album to feature the late great Cliff Burton on bass guitar prior to his death. In Denmark while touring for this particular record. So kind of a bit of a sad note there. But either way, let's get right into this album review really quick. So yeah, 1985, Metallica releases their third album, Master of Puppets, and the first thing that you notice immediately with this album is that it's very similar to Ride the Lightning. There isn't much deviation from what Metallica was presented with Ride the Lightning than there is with Master of Puppets. Like you can literally put both song lists from both records together, and you can see that for the most part are very parallel. And ironically, like. This record also is also very similar in sound and in even lyrically to Ride the Lightning. But if there's any particular difference between Master of Puppets and Lightning, it's the fact that in Master, Metallica completely hones their thrash metal craft. They become more focused musically and lyrically, I might add. They become more focused in their driving virtuosic music, like and lyrically, the angry political themes also take a much more focused center than before, and it's a much more potent album than Ride the Lightning, particularly. And for great reason too. That it's far more. I don't want to say it's far more theatrical, but it's far more focused as far as the craft is concerned. As far as that is just simply just a refinement of their past innovations of what they did with Ride the Lightning. That kind of works for them, and it kind of works against them in the sense that, like, it works for them in the sense that they reestablish that sense of drive and that sense of virtuosic energy that they were really known for at this time. But it also kind of detracts them from that in the sense that this album really doesn't present anything new from Metallica. Like, at times it kind of feels like a Ride the Lightning Part 2 in a sense, but music wise, this album is awesome in the sense that they refine their strengths and their visceralness with this album, and lyrically, it's also kind of a more unified aspect. Like, the lyrics kind of depict a general theme of not being in control of yourself, or having someone else or something else in control of you. And there's a lot of general themes of fear of powerlessness. There's also themes of, like, hypocritical authority. There's also themes of uncontrollable human urges, such as insanity and rage, and a lot of and also kind of entering into, like, more political themes here and there, something that they dabble with a little bit in Ride the Lightning, but here they're starting to take a little bit more precedent with Master of Puppets. And pretty much, let's quickly go through the track by track review. First song, Battery. Perfect introduction to this album. Kind of starts off with, like, this acoustic guitar riffing here, but then goes straight into this thrash mode that Metallica at this point was very well known for. And yeah, I can't think of any other song to lead off Master of Puppets very perfectly, and it suits this album. Second track is the title track, Master of Puppets, and this is, I feel that this song is Metallica's anthem in some way or another. That this is their, well, they technically have a lot of anthems, but this one in particular, you know, lyrically is about being controlled by drugs, and like almost like the numbing effect that drugs can have on you, like, drugs being the master and you being the puppet, like you having no say or no free will um to tell the drugs, or say, like, hey, do I have a say in this, hence the album cover. If you It's very, very famous album cover. But yeah, that's, for me, that's the whole centerpiece of this record. And Kirk Hammett's solo, I can't say any more about that song. Definitely love that song. The Thing That Should Not Be. Um, right away, I have to actually admit that, as big and as immensely critically adored as, and even praised by so many people as this album is, I can't necessarily say that I'm that familiar with this record. And it's not because I don't listen to it, or it's not because I don't like it. It's just kind of more or less the fact that this album has never, apart from the title track and a few songs from here, the rest of the album as a whole just didn't pique my interest in any sort of way. I realize that it's a very iconic album, and how everyone praises it for being such a grand masterpiece, and I do agree it's a grand masterpiece in its own right. But as far as, like, I'm getting off topic here. Sorry, stop it. But the song, "The Thing That Should Not Be," yeah, it's one of those few songs I'm actually not that familiar with. I've only heard it a couple of times, like, but the few times that I do remember it, it's a pretty awesome song, pretty good song in its own right. Fourth song, "Welcome Home, Sanitarium." Another good song right here. Kind of speaks of, like, like somebody coming home and finding that things are not as they should be, or as how this person has left this particular plane, or either way, like, still a really great song. Sanitarium. I can bring the list here. um, Disposable Heroes. Again, not another song, not a song in particular that I'm that familiar with, so I can't offer much of an analysis. But, like, from the few times that I have heard this song, like, it's really pretty good. Like, I mean, like, this is not Lars Ulrich's. This is not his, but this is, excuse me, this is not his best drumming work ever. But it's really kind of coming into its own on this album, particularly this song, "Disposable Heroes." Um, Leper Messiah. Again, another song that I'm not that familiar with. I've only heard it a couple of times, and I think it's safe to say that this is my least favorite song off the record. It's not a bad song by any means, but it just doesn't offer me anything. I don't find anything of particular interest with Leper Messiah at all. At all. Next song, Orion, which is the instrumental for Master of Puppets. Again, like the call of Cthulhu from Lightning. This has Cliff Burton all over this instrumental, and as I read before, Cliff Burton grew up in his household. He grew up listening to lots of classical music, and so this is very evident in songs like Cthulhu, and also Orion. off this album. Very fantastic instrumental, like immensely genius instrumental here. And sadly would be the last instrumental we'll hear from Cliff Burton's contribution to Metallica. But I couldn't think of a better instrumental to go out with than with Orion. So fabulous instrumental, fantastic. And Damage Inc. ends this album on a really thrashy note. Really ends it in like a no frills, take no prisoners kind of thing. And yeah, it wraps the album in a very in your face kind of way. So yeah, let's get to the 4-point grading system before it gets too late. First point, music originality. It's a bit iffy for me. For me personally, it's very iffy as far as music originality is concerned. The only thing that I find worth of music originality on this album, and this is not to the detriment of this album, because this is still a great, iconic, legendary album. But for me personally, what I find original about Master of Puppets is just Metallica reasserting its muscular prowess in the songs, in their performance, in their thrash metal playing. And sorry, the camera. And particularly also the more unitive cohesiveness of the music and the lyrics here. But the only downside to the originality is that they don't they're not as ambitious here as they were on Lightning. And that's the only detriment to me about the originality. So originality kind of gets a 4 out of 5 points for me. Kind of decent for 4 out of 5 points for me. Songwriting definitely is a plus. Definitely that they take a much more unitive, cohesive role here than in the past. And again, the whole concept of being controlled, by some unknown force, doesn't have to be anything out there or whatever. It could be drugs or government or anything like that, whatever your interpretation can be. But songwriting gets also a decent 4. Kind of really decent score. Likability. As I said before, this is not an album I'm not that completely familiar with. It's an album that I've only listened to a couple of times, so I'm not that experienced with it. But with the songs that I already know now, particularly, I really adore the songs that I know now, like the title track, Battery, Orion, Damage Inc. Like those songs, are just completely awesome songs. And it's like, even though it's not an album I play all that much, it's an album that that when I do get to play it, at least the songs that I do know, are just so awesome. And maybe in the future I will get more familiar with the other songs that I don't know as well. So likability kind of falters a little bit for me. Kind of gets a 3 out of 5. And as for the album as a package for Master of Puppets, I think just at least for the sheer benefit that it is regarded as a legendary classic, I will still leave it with a 4.5 out of 5 points. I do realize that in the wider context, even outside the metal community, it's regarded as a classic and Metallica's best ever work. But for me personally, just for me as one little particular perspective in, like, I don't know, like a wide bunch of others, I don't technically see how this can be considered Metallica's best ever work. It's clearly not their most ambitious, as far as difference, or as far as more challenging material is concerned. For me personally, I like for me personally, I happen to think that Justice is and Justice for All, their next album is probably their most challenging and their most complex and their most epic to, to date. And for me personally, that's the album that I think, in my opinion, just in my opinion, maybe should have gotten the recognition that Master of Puppets has now. Like I do understand, but I do understand reasons of why critics regard Master of Puppets as this epic, great, grand masterpiece. And but for me personally, it was just something that has always bothered me. Um, of why of of why Master of Puppets gets this immense recognition, and I don't know. It's just always been a question in my mind. But again, it's not to say that Master of Puppets is it is definitely still legendary in its own right, and definitely gets to receive a 4.5 out of 5. The only reason I put the point down is just mostly because of my infamiliarity with the other songs. But apart from that, it's still a legend in its own right, and only points ahead to what Metallica will do next. And I have gone long enough, so that's pretty much it. Leave your comments in the comment section down below. Tell me what you think. And next album, Injustice for All. Sorry this video came a little late, but either way, you got the review. Metallica, Master of Puppets, still a great album for the most part. And yeah, that's it. Mr. Music Fan, Master of Puppets, Metallica. Take care, guys.